Joining me now is NHL analyst Mike Johnson. And Mike, let's start with Brad Marchand and his little act at the end of the game, because we've done this dance with him before, and it was stupid, it was unsavory, it was silly, but it's not suspendable, although you believe it may hurt him later in the series.
No recourse for Brad Marchand in this game, but that doesn't mean that it's over with, because referees have a long memory. They can watch video. They can realize what Brad Marchand was doing. It was so ridiculous. He's not going to bug Scott Harrington. He's not going to injure him. He's watching the refs. When can I get away with it? I'm going to pop a guy in the back of the head, completely unrelated to the play. So ideally, it's a penalty there, and the game's over and hurts Boston. But since that didn't happen, where this hurts him, next game he gets in a scrum, little push and shove, and maybe he's the only guy who gets pulled out because the referees say, you know what, I remember what you did. I remember the cheap shot. Yeah, we didn't catch you last game, but I got you tonight. I'm not taking both of you. I'm taking you alone. I'm hurting you and your team for being ridiculous.
Right, and you can't, the officials, it's human nature.
Yes.
You know, nobody wants to get embarrassed, and that's exactly what Brad Marchand did to the officials that were in the ice. Let's take a bigger picture look at the Bruins, though, specifically Marchand with his line mates when it comes to Pastrnak and Bergeron. They were getting against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They ended up picking up 20 points in that series. So far, collectively, that big line for Boston, 1 point against CBJ. How are the Blue Jackets doing it?
Seth Jones. I mean, he is just such a stud defender when he gets out there. He closes gaps. He skates so well. He's strong physically. And they got a whole bunch of forwards, whether it's Dubinsky, whether it's Jenner, whether it's Foligno, all guys who are really good defensively, so they can't be taken advantage of physically. They're all excellent skaters, so they're hard to beat them back up the ice, to beat them in transition. And they have a really good goaltender playing right now in Sergei Bobrovsky. So you can see the frustration mounting for Marchand, for Pastrnak. And they're getting beat up a little bit themselves. Pastrnak had a pretty awkward fall right here, getting his leg tangled up underneath him. That doesn't feel right. Marchand, you saw a couple penalties, a little cheap shot, Bergeron as well. This shows signs of frustration because they're not used to this. They're used to dominating the playoffs. They did last year. They did in the first round this year. It's not been the case so far. Columbus deserves a lot of credit for what they're doing with that first line.
You know what? And I'm not going to give myself credit. I said that Columbus was going to be a tough out in the postseason based upon their history against Washington last year when they had the Capitals on the ropes and almost went up 3-0 in that series.
So you called Tampa sweep?
No.
No, you didn't.
And because of how they had played against Pittsburgh the year before that, I'm like, they're going to be a tough out. No, I didn't think they'd win this series. I thought that they would be a tough out. But you know what? They're playing really, really well. John Tortorella's pushing all the right buttons. As you mentioned, they got Bobrovsky between the pipes, which gives them a chance in each and every game. And they also have some big forwards and some guys who can put the puck in the back of the net, like Boone Jenner.
And there's so many guys like this, whether it's Anderson, whether it's Foligno. It doesn't have to be one guy every night. Maybe it's Panarin you count on every night. It's Jones, it's Bobrovsky. But amongst those other guys, they can just pop in once every 2 or 3 games. And in Game 3, it was all Boone Jenner. This guy had the game of his life. This goal was sweetness, little inside-out move. But it wasn't just that. He had lots of shots, lots of zone time. He was all over the puck. And strong defensively and physically engaged. Could have had this one. It was taken away by Zdeno Chara right on the goal line. Draws the penalty that ends up having the game-winning goal scorer on the power play. He's just one of many. And that's the beautiful part about a Columbus. You don't have to require him to do this again in Game 4. No. Somebody else can do it in Game 4. They have so many guys that can step up and play major roles in their victories, and that's why they find themselves up 2-1 in the second round.
I'm a huge fan of Josh Anderson. He is my favorite Columbus Blue Jacket because of the way the guy plays. But I'm still having a hard time trying to wrap my head around this. Could you imagine if you ended up with the Columbus Blue Jackets in Carolina in Eastern Conference Final?
Why not?
I mean, that's crazy. I know it could happen. Still a lot of hockey, but it could happen. Thanks for this.